Hello, I'm Nathan Robinson. I'm the editor of Current Affairs magazine, and I just wanted to send a message to our readers and our subscribers and say first, all of us at Current Affairs are hoping that you're doing okay and your family's okay and that you're safe and not too alone in this time of unprecedented national crisis. I am in a quarantine house. Some family friends have lent me this lovely accommodation in Florida. New Orleans, where Current Affairs is based, currently has what I understand to be the highest per capita infection rate of the coronavirus, much higher than New York or Seattle per capita. And I live downtown, and my family's here in Sarasota, and I decided that I wanted to come be close to my parents, but because we have to practice social distancing at the moment, I cannot go too close to my parents. So we found this place in which I could spend 14 days. We don't actually know, because I've tried to check on this, whether if you're an asymptomatic carrier, you don't have symptoms of the virus, you can still infect people after 14 days. It's not really clear. We know that I think 14 days is about the maximum for symptoms to show, but anyway, so we got to decide how long I have to stay alone in this house. But everyone on our staff is currently doing okay. And as I say, I hope you are too. We're going to be. It's a crazy time right now, and there's so much information coming at you, and it's very difficult to know what's going on, what's going to happen. It's just so frightening. We've never seen anything like this at all. And I know that we all fear for the future. We don't know if we're going to have to be locked in our houses for a year, 18 months. We don't know how bad the infections are going to be. We don't know if our hospital system is going to be able to handle it, and we're being led by probably the worst person that you can imagine putting in charge of a crisis, because Donald Trump has been used to saying that he's done things instead of doing those things all his life, and at a time like this, it really doesn't work, and a lot of people are going to die because of this criminal administration's incompetence. So it's not a good time right now. We're all very worried. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. Our magazine we're gonna do our best to provide you with accurate coverage of the unfolding crisis, to really sort of discuss the news stories that are falling through the cracks, right? Today there was a report that Department of Justice is pushing to eliminate habeas corpus and indefinitely detain people because of course, this administration is using the opportunity of a national crisis to impose new horrendous authoritarian measures that they would have liked to have all along, but couldn't have introduced without massive public opposition. It's difficult because we don't really even know how to publicly dissent from things when we're all in our houses, and you can't gather in groups of more than 10 people, so you by definition sort of can't have a successful protest of anything. So it's really very troubling, and we as a magazine, as I say, are going to try and make sure that there is a stream of good analysis that is figuring out as much as possible what we know. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty, but the other thing that we want to do in our coverage is we really want to give you the sense, because it's true, we want to show you that we're with you while this is unfolding. I really hesitate to offer words of sort of empty reassurance. Oh. Sneezed. I think that's allergies. I'm pretty sure there's allergies. There's a lot of pollen. It's pollen season in Florida, and I've been sneezing a lot. You don't have to. I'm fine. The sneezing, it's the pollen. It's not even. I don't think it's even sneezing is not one of the things. So, what was it? We're going to yes. Oh, we want you to know that we're with you. I always hesitate to offer, you say, oh, well, we're all going to get through this. We're all going to get through this. Well, I think that's actually something that I don't want to say because, like, some of us, many of us, most of us are going to get through it. But from what we know now, some people aren't going to get through it. A lot of people probably aren't going to get through it. A lot of people have already lost family members to this horrible virus, and more people are going to, and we don't yet know who those people are. But a lot of people are going to suffer, and they're not. And I feel like, considering that, it would be wrong of me to say things like, I mean, it's like how you see all this stuff that sort of, all this really kind of ableist stuff that is like, you see, oh, well, it doesn't affect you if you're young and healthy, right? Or if you don't, as long as you're not immunocompromised, you're gonna be okay. Well, if someone who is immunocompromised, that they go, oh, so, it's okay if I die, but like, there's all this stuff. There was an op-ed by a CDC director in CNN, on CNN, and it even said something like, we need to protect the most vulnerable, if only because by protecting them, we protect ourselves. And you think, well, it's kind of gross to me that, like, self-interest is what you had to appeal to. We have to protect the most vulnerable because they're human beings, and human beings matter. And one of the things about this virus is that it is going to hit the most marginalized people the worst, right? I mean, I could stay in this living room for 18 months if I had to, eating beans, and I'd probably come out okay. But if this infection gets into nursing homes, of course, and prisons, immigration detention facilities, the consequences really can be disastrous. And we're so I don't want to say, oh, all things must pass, because we need to think about the fact that many of us are going to be all right, but this is really going to be, it's not just a pandemic where we're all in the same boat. Some of us are in different boats than others. Some of us are on 90-foot yachts, right? Some of us can afford to flee, some of us can't. And I think one of the worst things about this crisis is that it is absolutely going to impact people differently. It's going to exacerbate existing underlying injustices in the most horrific way possible. And so there's no real way around that except to say that, we have to be pushing hard to make sure that whatever it needs to be done is done. I mean, I don't want to get into how we're going to fix this yet. I think we would go through in our coverage, hopefully, what is the path out of this situation that we found ourselves in. Right now, I just sort of want to, convey what we're thinking about at Current Affairs, what the staff is thinking about. And, one of the things that we don't want to do, we really don't want to give you a sense of, being overwhelmed with despair, because what's happening is so horrible. There is going to be a tendency to tune out of the news because it's just this overwhelming misery. And we already have that with news. You already feel so impotent. You feel like you can't do anything. Why would you watch just this parade of suffering that you can't do anything about? So, in part, we're going to be giving you things, I think, that are non-virus related, non-crisis related. We're going to try to keep, presenting humor and levity and going into other subjects and literature and film and games and whatever. I think it's very important for all of our mental health that we don't just become single-mindedly obsessed with the virus, even though, say, for those of us that it affects personally, it's almost impossible not to do that. And yeah, what we're gonna try and do is cover this in a way that not only gives us a sense of solidarity, a sense of that whatever happens, we're all here for one another. We're here for you. We know you've been here for us. You know, we are entirely dependent on subscription revenue, entirely dependent on our subscribers. We have never had any advertisers or investors. It's always been just subscribers. And so, you know, you have supported us and allowed us to build an independent print magazine in the digital era that I am very proud of and that I thank you for. But yeah, you know, we're going to try and convey that sense of solidarity, but we're also going to try and talk about this in a way that enables us to think through what we can do together and to avoid, you know, we don't just not want to feel alone, you know, we also want to feel empowered, because this is going to be a disempowering crisis. You know, being told to shelter in your home, not come out, you know, I've written in my articles already about the possibility for the shock doctrine to occur, right? You know, this moment of crisis, this moment where people are feeling weak and are confused, and that to be used by profiteers and authoritarians to ram through the agenda we already wanted in the first place. So, you know, while the public schools are closed, we'll privatize them. And, you know, you've already seen people trying to cash in. And there's going to be a lot of that, because in the United States, we have had the dogma for the last however long that the pursuit of rational self-interest, no matter how it hurts other people, is perfectly legitimate. And that, you know, I mean, you see mainstream newspapers say, you know, sweatshops are good, price gouging is good, anything that, you know, the glorious free market produces is sort of by definition morally neutral. So, you know, in a crisis, charging however much you can for necessary supplies, you know, just the market at work. So we need to all sort of have a deep sense of that feeling of solidarity, that feeling that it is not okay just to look out for ourselves, that we have to look out for one another, that we have to have each other's backs, that we can't let this crisis cause us to retreat and degenerate into an isolated society of individuals who are not connected with one another and aren't mutually supporting one another. There's a real risk of that. I mean, we're being encouraged to socially distance, right? And it's already a socially distant society. We're already really alone. You know, I was thinking, how could I socially distance much more than I already do? I spend all day alone in my office. You know, and for many people, it's much worse, right? I mean, there are already people, you know, I always think about the 40,000 people a year who take their own lives. And, you know, who are they and how did they get to that point? How did they become so very desperate? And why weren't, you know, sometimes there were people there for them. I don't want to say that, but, you know, there are a lot of people where, you know, some empathy, some compassion might have made a difference, because I've had that feeling of deep aloneness where you really think, you know, who would come if I was sort of lying, desperate, wailing, you know. I think, you know, you think of kids and people in prison, people in solitary confinement, people who, you know, who's thinking about them, who's thinking about what happens to them. And I think it's our job right now to think about what happens to one another. Because the federal government is not going to, right? Because Donald Trump thinks only about himself and the Democrats aren't that much better. And you know, we have to fill the gap. There's a terrible risk right now that this crisis will bring us spiraling downwards into social dysfunction in an unprecedented way. So what we need to do, what our magazine is going to try and do, and what we hope to collaborate with our subscribers and readers on, is to really do what we can to build bridges and to make sure that that we don't disintegrate, and that we are checking in on one another, and we're, as I say, we're there for you, and you're there for us. You know, these are going to be incredibly difficult times ahead, probably. From what we know, we don't know how bad it's going to get. We don't know the extent to which the social distancing measures are going to flatten the curve. But I think we do know that there are going to be a lot of people in pain, and a lot of people who lose their lives coming up. And I think it's very hard to grapple with what that means. It's very, I mean, I've woken up wondering if this is all some horrible nightmare, and then I look at this, you know, I'm in this stranger's bed, and I look up and I think, no, I'm still here. I'm still here in this house. I'm not at my apartment in New Orleans. This is real. This is happening. And we're gonna wish so hard that it could just all go away. And some of us are gonna really feel like we're at the end of our rope, that there's nothing for us, that everything in front of us is bleak and hopeless. And that may be true. It's pretty bleak. I don't think we should offer each other reassuring lies. But I do think we should try and offer each other reason to keep going, try and buck up the spirits as much as we can, sustain, you know, keep the flame flickering, keep the flag flying. There are a lot of people whose lives depend on what we do. This is such an important thing, right? Is that one of the things that we've learned already from this crisis is that what we do deeply affects other people. Us staying home affects whether other people get sick and die. And, you know, us offering each other support affects the kind of society that we're going to be. So, you know, we want to give you the kind, you know, we're just a magazine. It feels weird as, you know, we're going to give you the kind of, we can't give you a magazine that's going to, you know, that's going to change your life or make everything okay given the state of things. But we're going to do our best to offer you something in you know, in videos and in words that is the best that we know how to do in terms of sustaining a feeling of social connection and support. I've gone on quite a long time. I just wanted to convey to you, like, I think it's okay that I rambled. I think it's okay because I wanted you to see, you know, my kind of my real feelings of working these things out in real time. I don't quite know what to say. I'm not feeling that articulate right now. I held off on writing about the virus because I just didn't know what to fucking say about all this. Where do you even begin? But I mean, I'm starting to put together some thoughts and try and collect myself and get back to work and find ways to sustain myself, because as lovely as this living room is, you know, if you once you're in it for days and days, you know, being in any enclosed space, you kind of get cabin fever. And you know, you can see, you get some small taste of why incarcerating people is such a horrible injustice. Even you know, it's not comparable, but it you go, my God, if this is bad, how bad is the prison system? And the answer is very bad. We need to start releasing people immediately. It's also, it's a public health crisis. Well, that's all I had to say to you. I really hope you're well. I hope your family's okay. Stay safe, stay indoors, socially distance. Keep your 6 feet. But don't be distant from us. Don't be a stranger to us. And usually I let people come by the office and say hello, but that's not going to happen for a while. So, I'm bad at replying to my emails, but you can always email me, Nathan@currentaffairs.org. I try to reply. If I don't reply, it's bad. I'm sorry. Try again. I'll just keep emailing. Eventually, I'll go, I'm sorry. That's it. The rest of the staff of Current Affairs are all around the place. They're in different places, but they wish you well too. And yeah, we're staying in communication. We're going to keep putting out a magazine. And we hope that we do all come out of this okay. All the best to you.